So we've just actually heard of a major update from the world of Formula One. What send shockwaves throughout the Formula One ecosystem if it is actually going through. And we have every reason to believe that this time around it's not the case of a boy crying wolf. It is, in fact, something that could and most likely will happen. We're expecting an announcement anytime today or maybe even tomorrow. But it seems like the one move that everyone has been talking about for whatever at this point could finally happen in 2025. Lewis Hamilton, a seven-time Formula One world champion, all set to leave Mercedes and join Ferrari for 2025. Now, obviously, there's a lot to digest in this particular, let's say, news bit because again, it's a rumor that has been doing around for a number of years. It's always been rebuffed, shot back. Hamilton is always recommitted to Mercedes, and everyone thought that last year or rather towards the end of last season, when the rumors first started doing the rounds, it seemed like it was something fanciful because again, Hamilton had already committed his future to Mercedes. He had announced a two-year deal with the team, and of course, that was for the 24 and for the 25 and 26 season rather. So 2 extra years in addition to the deal that he already signed. So it seemed like it was a matter of just building the team around Hamilton and of course the current driver George Russell, but the reason this time around these reports seem so legitimate is due to the fact that it is not just being reported as given or as a done in the Italian media, which is of course where the reports first emerged. It's also being reported as a given in the British press. Now, the British press are notoriously close to any Brit driver, and that would, of course, going to be the case for Lewis Hamilton because, again, he's the most experienced, most successful driver ever to come out in arguably Formula One, and he just happens to be British. So naturally, they're going to be all over him, and in this case, even they are confirming that come 2025, Lewis Hamilton is finally going to be driving for Ferrari. So obviously, two major questions come about is well, why? And the second reason why, and the whys also are two of them. One is why would Hamilton want to join Ferrari, and more importantly, why would Ferrari need Hamilton? Let's talk about the first one. Why should Hamilton want to join Ferrari? Well, it's simple. As Sebastian Vettel, his one-time rival, once said, everyone's a Ferrari fan. Whether or not you claim to be or you say you're a Ferrari fan, everyone's a Ferrari fan. They are the it team as far as Formula One is concerned. They're the only team, of course, who have taken part in every single edition of the World Championship since it was started in the year 1950. And so there's obviously definitely a certain gravitas that can be attached to being a Ferrari driver and winning a race for the prancing horse, for the Scuderia Ferrari. There's obviously a lot of, let's say, glamour attached to being a Ferrari driver in Formula One. So it's no real surprise that Hamilton felt the lure of Ferrari this time around would be far too much to pass on. So that is his side of things. Of course, there is the very legitimate argument to be made that, Ferrari, their problems aren't really driver specific. They would have arguably what should be considered one of the strongest driver lineups right now in Carlos Sainz and, of course, Charles Leclerc. But their problems, more often than not, ever since they kind of shot back to the front of the grid or competing for race wins, have been strategic. It hasn't really been driver specific as much as it has been strategy specific. So the main problem has been strategic. So how exactly does bringing in a driver of Hamilton's caliber, let's say, solve that? The answer being it doesn't, but the rationale from the team would be that maybe having a driver of that level could perhaps motivate the team to do better. I mean, you have seen it happen in the past with the man who Hamilton happens to be tied on for those, let's say, 7 World Drivers' Championships, Michael Schumacher. Schumacher joined a Ferrari team that hadn't won a title in, or more than a decade, then ended up winning 5 on the trot with them when that streak was finally broken in the 2000 season. Then he went on to win 5, let's say, world titles with them, and it was seen as a move that really paid off in spades. Maybe that's the logic that Ferrari are targeting. Don't forget, they did get a new CEO in John Elkann pretty recently, and Elkann and Hamilton are known to be good friends away from, let's say, the Formula One grid, and so that is definitely something that could have played a factor. Don't forget that Hamilton has also had ties with Fred Vasseur, who happens to be the Ferrari boss. Vasseur was one of the people who was, a team manager of sorts of Hamilton's when he was racing in the junior divisions. So there is definitely a relationship there. So it's not like Hamilton is joining a team of strangers, but For me, perhaps the biggest reason that he could perhaps be joining is the fact that from 2026, which is of course a year where you'll be seeing a new change in regulations, well, the focus is going to be all on the engines once again, because in 2026 you're going to be getting new engine regulations, and you saw what happened the last time a new engine regulation came about in 2014. Mercedes aced it, they got ahead of everyone and ended up dominating the sport for 7 long years. In fact, they won 8 straight constructors championships, 7 world titles. So definitely, that success was built around the fact that they got the turbo hybrid era engines right. But those engines are now going to change come 2026, and maybe, just maybe, Lewis feels that being in Ferrari might potentially, let's say, put him in a better position to win. Again, it's not the worst bet in the world to join a manufacturer team or an engine constructor at a time when the regulations are going to become more engine friendly. It's something you've seen people do in the past, and it's a move that can, in fact, pay off. Whether or not it does, that's up for debate, because again, Ferrari for years, I would say their problem hasn't been the car or the personnel as much as it has been making absolute strategic bungles, and that has been true since the time of Sebastian Vettel joining the team. So it's not necessarily a new problem. Maybe Hamilton feels he's the one who could potentially fix that in this team. Perhaps he just feels like he needs a new challenge because he's done as much as he could with Mercedes. Or maybe he feels the time is running out in his career. Don't forget, he's pushing in on 40 years old, and that Ferrari would perhaps give him that better chance to win the 8th World Drivers' Championship. And again, he's won every single race, every single podium finish of his career has come in a Mercedes engine, because again, he made his debut with McLaren at a time when they were the Mercedes customer team. And ever since then, even when he changed teams, he just went to Mercedes. So every single one of his podium finishes, victories, points finishes, they've all come in a Mercedes engine. Maybe that time could change. Maybe he'll finally have a Ferrari podiums, point finishes. And I mean, it's definitely a big move, and it especially comes at a very interesting time because there's been a lot of talk among journalists that this has probably been the most boring silly season. Silly season is a term used for when drivers make moves between teams. And 2024 was seen as the year of stability because not only did no one lose their seats, there was no changes to the teams either. It's not like there was an inter-team swap either. Nothing of the sort. Every single driver retained their seat in their respective team that they started the season at in 2023. So it was seen as a very boring, let's say, silly season. A move like this, especially considering that pre-season testing is about less than a month away at this point in time, is something that could absolutely shake, let's say, the way the sport is. And I definitely am very surprised it's happening. But what are your thoughts? You can let me know in the comments. We've been going on long. I appreciate all of you who joined me on this video. Thank you all so much for joining. If you enjoy our work, please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap that bell, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the Sports app. And if you're already on the channel, well, then go right ahead. Check out some other videos we've done as well. For now, from my side though, it is goodbye.